Hey guys, Anime E here, and just a disclaimer that this channel is for 13 and up, and that there will be swearing in this channel. If you don't like it, there's the unsubscribe button, and you can leave the channel. If you do, let's get into the video. And two things before we start. Fuck you, Kappa, and fuck you, YouTube. Alright? Fuck you both, alright? Just fuck you. That's all I gotta say to you guys, just fuck you. Alright? Now with that out of the way, let's get into the video. Hey guys, Anime E here, and welcome to part 1 to What If Deku Was a Duality. If you haven't watched part 0, aka the background info, go watch it because I'm not explaining it in this episode. I'm just trying to get straight into the what if. Alright, so please go watch it. If you don't, things probably won't make sense. Alright, so let's get into the what if. We're starting off at the ripe old age of 6, and this is 2 years after Bakugo awakened his quirk and Deku was declared quirkless. Now, at this point in time, Bakugo has become his usual bitchy and angry self because of his quirk and all the praise that he's getting. So Bakugo at this point is bullying Deku every day, and it's starting to have an impact on Izuku's life. So Deku one day tries to stand up for himself, and this idea pisses Bakugo off. So after school, Bakugo and his gang jump Deku, and while Deku is getting beat, he sort of blacks out from the beating, but not really. See, what's happening is Hisashi saw what's happening on the outside and got very pissed off. So now he's forcibly taking control of Izuku's body. Now, once Hisashi got full control of the body, the hair of Izuku turns to a dark crimson red, and the pupils and the iris turn a dark black, which that didn't really make sense because black is already dark. And first, Hisashi uses his fire quirk to blow Bakugo up. Now, Bakugo isn't dead, but the gang around him is knocked out cold, and this is because it was a hot day outside, so Bakugo is sweating a lot, so that could cause, huge explosion. And he was sweating a lot because, he was beating the shit out of Deku. Now, Bakugo is even more pissed off because now he thinks Deku lied to him this time and has been laughing behind his back about being quirkless, and he goes on the attack. However, before Bakugo can get any closer, Hisashi's in control now. Hisashi rushes in and starts beating Bakugo's ass, and the fight is not close at all. Imagine Bruce Lee versus a 6-year-old, and that's how this fight is going. Now, Bakugo is getting the shit fucked up, and Hisashi is in control and completely self-aware of what he's doing. Now, after Hisashi is satisfied with the results of the beating, aka everyone is knocked out with missing teeth, black eyes, and most likely some fractured to broken bones. So he decides to start running away from the scene, but right before they get out of sight of the scene, he lets Izuku have control so he can witness what just went down. Now, Izuku is now traumatized because of this, because last time he saw he was getting beat up, and now he has like a bunch of bloody, knocked out people in front of him. So this kind of traumatizes him. So a few days after it, Hisashi realizes that traumatizing his child probably wasn't the best thing to do. So he decides to make amends. He first starts off by, as a voice in Izuku's head, he tells him to go to the woods Saturday morning alone. Now Izuku's still kind of freaking out, listens to the voice, and he goes to the woods alone and starts to meditate. Now, when he does, Izuku shows up inside of his mind, and he sees a man peering out the window of a house that appears locked. Now, this is the cage version of Kurama, like I said. I'm just going to put it as a person in the house being stuck. So, the man tells him to open the door, and Izuku listens, and Hisashi tells Izuku everything that happened except for the human experiments thing. And he leaves that out for obvious reasons. So, after they talk for a little bit, Hisashi tells him about why he beat up Bakugo, and he also tells him that if he ever needs his help at any time, just let him know. And he tells him, think of me as your quirk. And Deku, feeling a lot better about the whole situation, goes to school the next day, and everything goes on normally, except for the fact that he doesn't get his ass beat anymore because no one's gonna bully someone that put 3 kids in the hospital. So as time went on, in order for Deku to not have to explain that his father was a mad scientist who discovered immortality and is now stuck in his body, he just He tells everyone that his quirk is basically like a dark side. He has a dark side, and that's what he uses. So everyone just sort of takes that because it makes sense. He also tells them that he can't control the dark side because he cannot. If Hizashi wants to break out, he can. If he wants to take control, he can. Izuku's not strong enough yet to stop him. So, over the next few years, Izuku trains with Hizashi and tries to become more connected, and they both get a lot stronger, a lot more buff. Hizashi gets his fire quirk boosted and his martial arts boosted, and Deku decides to start training in martial arts and weapons, and he's been training in a lot of things from fists to knives to guns to swords to staves and katanas and many others. He mostly partakes in knives since they're a lot easier to carry around, so he always carries 2 knives on hand ever since he started training with them. And he has a katana lying at home for, like, unless say they ever have to leave the city, then he'll take his katana with him. Okay, so skipping forward again to the shortcut scene, Deku's walking down the shortcut and gets assaulted by the slime creature. However, Hizashi is having none of that and immediately steps in to stop this. He starts by trying to turn the slime into clay by using his fire breath, and this actually works surprisingly. It's very effective, and this is when All Might shows up and finishes the job. He stops to look at Izuku and tells him that the fire breath is very cool and how his hair turned and how it complements his hair color. Izuku, well, I guess Hizashi's in control. Hizashi turns around and in a very deep voice says, "Izuku, your favorite hero is outside." And right after that, the hair changes from the crimson red back to the original green, and his eyes revert back to normal as Deku takes control of the body. And after the change, everything goes back to normal. Deku goes into fanboy mode, and All Might's a little bit confused about what happened. So he asks Deku what's his quirk, and Deku responds with, "It's just a dark side, basically." And All Might responds, "So basically like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde." And Deku laughs at that, but he says, "Yes, you could consider it that." So Deku has one question that he wants to ask All Might very fast, but before he can ask, All Might jumps away because he's about to deflate. And Deku lets Hizashi take control, and Hizashi tries to jump after him using his fire breath as propelling, like just propelling himself in the air using his fire breath. This takes a lot of stamina since, you're having to use your mouth to propel yourself, but he manages. So Hizashi lands on the building with All Might, very tired, and lets Deku take control again. Now All Might deflates, and Deku acts a little bit surprised, but not really, and he just acts like it didn't happen. All Might's a little bit confused at his reaction, but he thinks that this is the perfect solution. If he doesn't want any answers, don't give him any, shut the fuck up, and continue. So Deku asks this question again, which is, can I be a great hero even with a side like that, like even with a quirk like me that might seem evil or corrupting? And All Might says yes, he could. In fact, he could probably be a better hero than me. So shortly after All Might answers, an explosion happens, signifying that the slime villain has Bakugo. However, Deku really doesn't give 2 shits about Bakugo. He really fucking hates him, so he decides to just sort of walk away, but then he remembers that innocent people that aren't pieces of shit may be in trouble, so he decides to rush over and help them. Now, he lets Hizashi take control since he's the one with the fire quirk and the more power. And Hizashi gets in there and starts to breathe fire on the slime villain with Bakugo inside of him. Now, he doesn't give a shit about the fact that Bakugo could explode at any second or that he could burn Bakugo with the fire. And, yeah, he just doesn't. So he successfully burns the villain and makes Bakugo explode his sweat forcibly by using the fire. Now, I bet you're wondering, why hasn't Bakugo resist or say anything? Well, Bakugo won't say shit and didn't say shit because he's still traumatized from what happened a couple years ago. That night, I didn't really go into the details of what happened, but that night, Bakugo had 2 broken ribs, a fractured nose, 4 fractured ribs, his right arm is fractured, he had internal bleeding, and a lot of his organs suffered damage. Some of them even suffered permanent damage. And he almost died from this. Like, if the ambulance had been more than 10 minutes later, he wouldn't have survived. Yeah, Hisashi did not give a shit about him and is very protective of his child. So he went all out. So Bakugo doesn't even look Deku in the eye anymore, because that red hair and those black eyes will forever scar him. And if he had the choice, he would probably be in a different room with him at all times. So Deku finishes off the villain, walks home with his validation that he saved some people's lives, and he starts to check in with his dad. So they can do this cool thing where they can talk to each other at once, but the body will just move on its own. So sort of like a thing where he can go in his mind, but the body will still move to whatever last, rule he gave it. So All Might, about half the way home, All Might stops and asks Izuku if he would like to have his quirk. Both Hisashi and Izuku answer yes, but for very different reasons, and I'll leave that up to you guys to think why. However, during this time that they both say yes, their hair changes to green with red streaks, and their eyes turn to a dark cyan color. Now, All Might notices this change and documents it documents it in his thoughts for later analysis. And now we're just going to skip forward to the training. During the training, Deku activates his form again, where his hair is green with red streaks, and his eyes are dark cyan. Hisashi tells Izuku that what's going on is basically it's a good step in their relationship. However, it's a good step in Deku's favor, meaning that he can suppress Hisashi a lot more. However, this also means that he can start accessing some of Hisashi abilities. Now, Deku is very excited about this, since he's always wanted to be able to suppress Hisashi if he got out of hand, since he's never been able to do that. So Deku trains in this new form a lot and gains some of Hisashi's skills. And in this form, they also get a weak version of Hisashi's fire quirk. Now, this form from now on will be referred to as Alpha 1.0. Now, Deku trains in his Alpha 1.0 form and gains a good amount of control to where if he's in this form and he gets very mad, he can sort of let Hisashi get more control without Hisashi being fully in control. So basically, he can control how much Hisashi can do now in this form, though. And that's only that's only for a good amount. If Hisashi gets more mad, or let's say he tries very hard, he can still break out. He hasn't gotten full control of him yet. So all of this happens within the first 4 months. So Deku gets One for All very early, and the second that Deku swallows the hair, Hisashi immediately tries to take over and tries to move. He tells Deku that he's not trying to use it for evil. He just wants to test some stuff. So he tries to channel One for All into his mouth, and it works. He makes a huge fire blast, one very big and very bright. However, as you may know, since there's really no bones in his mouth, his lips aren't really going to get any bones, his throat starts to get very sore, as that's the backlash. It starts to get very, very sore. And Hisashi, after a few seconds, realizes that he can't use all of the power in one spot. So he gets the idea, if I can't use it all in one spot, maybe I could channel it through multiple spots. He tries this again, but only ends up breaking their hands and their feet. Hisashi, frustrated again, tries this one more time. He says, alright, let's channel this throughout the whole body. He does this, and immediately red lightning starts to shiver around Deku and Hisashi. This is their new One for All form. Their red hair stands up. However, in this form, since Hisashi is the one that discovered it, he basically has a good amount of control. So in this form, their hair turns red with green streaks, and their eyes turn into a grayish color. Well, sorry, not a grayish color. A very dark green, like a red green. Like their irises, the white part of your eye, are green with a red pupil. This is their full cow, like I said. Alright, so skipping forward to the entrance exams, they do train with One for All. Now, so skipping forward to the entrance exams, both Deku and Hisashi are excited about this immense power, and they have trained till they die. Well, they've just been training since the UA entrance exam. They've been going at it. So after the months are over, Deku is able to use 15% of One for All, which is already a huge step up from what he could do in the original. And Hisashi is able to use 30% of full cow. Now, they walk in their Alpha 1.0 form. Oh yeah, by the way. Well, no, I don't have to explain that. Yeah, they walk in their Alpha 1.0 form, which has had a huge development since last time I talked about them. So they go in and enter. Well, they go to enter the UA entry exam, but they stop, and two people catch their interest. It's like they're very, very interested in these two people. One of them is a male, and the other is a female. They both have very distinctive features that make them stand out and kind of remind them of themselves. I'll let you guys try to guess who they are. Alright. First person to comment both of them correctly, I'll pin them and shout them out in my next video. However, I don't think you guys are going to get it. I really don't think. But I will give you one more hint. They're both in Class 1A. Alright. So Deku walks in and starts to plot about how he's going to do this when Ida stands up. Now, Deku just accepts what Ida is throwing out and sits down. And the reason he doesn't do anything and the reason Hisashi doesn't take over is because, one, this is small stuff. There's no reason to really do anything. And two, they both don't want to risk any chances at getting into UA right now. So everyone heads outside. Everyone heads outside and lines up at the gate outside. And this is when Deku lets Hisashi completely take over, since he's going to be the one that helps them. And when Hisashi takes up, well, Deku gives him one condition. He's not allowed to kill anyone. And Hisashi accepts this and activates full cal 30%. He wants to make sure that he goes all out. And he goes to town on the robots, spamming fire from up high, destroying them using the full-on strength of One for All, and throwing out smashes left and right. Now, after he decides that he's destroyed enough robots, Hisashi, he tries to goes around and find the people that interest him. However, he can't find them anywhere and goes around to see if anyone needs help. Now, he finds one girl stuck under the rubble. This is Uraka, and no, Uraka is not not the female that you guys are trying to guess. I'll give you that. Now, he goes to find her stuck under rubble while a giant robot approaching her. He grabs a chaku and gives her to Ida while he faces the 0-point robot. He uses his fire to propel himself up and then uses a smash combined with his fire as sort of a booster. So he launches a fireball and then uses the wind power of One for All to make that fire a lot bigger, since oxygen makes fire hotter and bigger. So this fireball becomes the size of the robot's head. However, because of all that energy and power that was used, the fusion begins to collapse and they both kind of knock out. And now they're both free falling. Now, Hisashi and Deku both wake up at the same time again and are able to perform a smash towards the ground to cushion their fall. But they still took massive damage or were hospitalized for a week. Now, the doctor tells them that they were super lucky because a normal person would have been hospitalized for about a month to 3 months because of all the broken bones they suffered. However, remember, Hisashi is immortal, and like I said, they both woke up at the same time. So while they weren't fully immune to the damage that was caused, they did, since Deku was still a part of it, they were able to soften a lot of the damage. Because the immortality is not only just immortality, but it's a very good regen. Like, they're regenerating their bones a lot quicker. So, now, the reason, like I said, that they didn't get away scot-free is because, one, Hisashi wasn't in full control, he was in half control, and two, Deku isn't immortal yet, but Hisashi's DNA and soul are starting to fuse in his own, so Deku still has a good healing factor. It's not very good. It's more like if he gets a little cut or scrape, he can heal it in about a second, but if he gets stabbed or something, it's just going to take off a little bit of time compared to a normal person. Well, anyway, skipping forward to when Deku gets into UA, he's outside the classroom, about to walk in the door, hoping that the two people that he found interesting are in his class, and they are. He walks into the classroom, but before I say anything else, I'm going to end part 1 here, guys. I'm sorry, but part 2, you will find out who the two people are that Deku's interested in. We will cover the hero versus villains, the quirk training exam, the USJ, and definitely some, but I don't know if all of the sports festival, but those things will be covered in part 2. So let me know what you guys thought about the what if, and try to guess who Deku was interested in earlier. Alright? Remember, first one to figure out both gets pinned in the comment section. Now, see you guys in part 2. Anime E, signing off. Bye!